For God's sake, his name is Percy Bysshe.
I've never attempted to say the second name.
Hmm. I'm sure I'm doing it wrong and with poor grammar.
You are listening to Two Friends, Two Poems, the podcast where friends read poems to each other just to see what happens. My name is Tom. This was my idea. Today it's just me and Paul. Paul reads some Percy Shelley. I read some William Shakespeare, as well as a new poem by me entitled Cringe. Okay, come cringe with us.
You know what's funny about everything with Shelley to me
What's that?
is I feel like Shelley and friends, they were always doing Two Friends, Two Poems.
Yeah.
And he was forcing it on his kids too, where it
That's our
was
next
like, yeah, okay, so because this one's hilarious to me. This poem came about when Shelley's friend, the banker, Horace Smith, was staying at his house, and they were talking about recent discoveries and this statue of Ramses II.
Yeah.
And so Shelley puts it forward to his friend like, let's both write some poems about
Yeah.
it. And the way the Poetry Foundation says this is Smith Smith produced a now forgotten poem with the unfortunate title On a Stupendous Leg of Granite Discovered Standing by Itself in the Deserts of Egypt, with the inscription inserted below.
I listen. I would like to respectfully disagree. That's the best title I've ever heard in my life, and I aspire to such a title.
Well, yeah, I'm looking back through poems I've written for this podcast, and I had one that was also hilariously like a whole paragraph of a title. But
Yeah.
that was funny to me. And I think Horace Smith, the banker, maybe also thought it was funny. And I love the idea of someday appearing in the Poetry Foundation archives as the now forgotten poem.
Yes. Isn't that true? Yeah, that really makes him a Salieri character, doesn't it?
Okay, the other reason
Hmm.
this poem was in my mind was actually because I was watching horror movies. But in Alien Covenant, so much of the Alien series, right, is about artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
It's David versus Walter, and it turns out, and this is convenient for the whole Alien franchise,
Hmm.
because a lot of people were asking, like, why do the robots suck more? Walter knows something is wrong with David. One, he's been programmed to think that, I guess. But they read this. David quotes this poem, and then says it's by Byron. Also buddies with Shelley.
Okay.
And Walter goes, no, it's Shelley. And then David kills Walter. This is Ozymandias by Shelley. I met a traveler from an antique land who said, two vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them, on the sand, half sunk, a shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command tell that its sculptor well those passions read which yet survive, stamped on these lifeless things, the hand that mocked them, and the heart that fed. And on the pedestal these words appear: my name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. Nothing beside remains. Round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away.
I loved the part where it mentions the sculptor, the skill of the sculptor. Because I feel, and is that not,
Yeah,
is that juxtaposed with the skill of the sculptor making the hand that mocked him or something? I may be misinterpreting
that
it.
is so good. Yeah, thank you. So there's a few things that happen in this. It's I met a traveler, so we're like, oh, okay,
Mm-hmm.
we've got a narrator, and then it quickly moves into quotations of the traveler from an antique land. So now we've got this I is buried within his telling of a traveler, and then it's sculptor who's made the only interpretation of this now extinct civilization.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And what
That's
gets
it.
quoted in Alien Covenant, David only says, "My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair."
Mm.
That's the only part he quotes, which is great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, like, I love the idea that we don't get the Alien franchise without Shelley. Without Two Friends, Two Poems of the 1800s, and this guy who's way more obsessed with poetry than we are,
Yeah.
we don't get Frankenstein. If we don't get Frankenstein, we really don't get any horror.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it just creates these pathways through an obsession with words that and you're gonna read Shakespeare, which is like the same thing. What do we have now if no Shakespeare?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I
maybe
want to
hot
pull
cross
up.
buns.
I want to pull up a quote I found. One second. It feels so nice not to have to hurry because of Zoom. Yeah, so I'm reading the it's called it's often referred to as the commodity speech from King John that's spoken by Philip the Bastard. So yeah, basically France and England are fighting, and the bastard is fighting obviously for England. And they fight and fight, and people die, and then somebody on the France side says, "Hey, what if our prince marries your princess or whatever, and then we can swap money, and then we don't have to fight anymore?"
Mhm.
And the King of England says, "You got a deal." And it's devastating to the bastard, seemingly, because he thought they were there fighting for something meaningful.
It's before America.
It's before America. Yeah. This is
Like
before
what? This was
America.
just about finance?
I think this is before the word capitalism, maybe? I'm not sure.
It's before Horace the banker.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, every time I'm really enraged by anything remotely political, I often think of this speech. And so it's been cathartic to kind of recite over and over today. So this is King John. It is Act 2, Scene 1. Mad world, mad kings, mad composition. John, to stop Arthur's title in the whole, hath willingly departed with a part. And France, whose armor conscience buckled on, whom zeal and charity brought to the field as God's own soldier, rounded in the ear with that same purpose changer. That sly devil, that broker that still breaks the pate of faith, that daily break vow, he that wins of all, of kings, of beggars, old men, young men, maids, who, having no external thing to lose but the word maid, cheats the poor maid of that smooth-faced gentleman, tickling commodity. commodity, the bias of the world. The world, who of itself is paised well, made to run even upon even ground, till this advantage, this vile drawing bias, this sway of motion, this commodity, makes it take head from all indifferency, from all direction, purpose, course, intent. And this same bias, this commodity, this bawd, this broker, this all-changing word, clapped on the outward eye of fickle France, hath drawn him from his own determined aid, from a resolved and honorable war, to a most base and vile concluded peace. And why rail I on this commodity? But for because he hath not wooed me yet. Not that I have the power to clutch my hand when his fair angels would salute my palm, but for my hand, as unattempted yet, like a poor beggar raileth on the rich. Well, whiles I am a beggar, I will rail, and say there is no sin but to be rich, and being rich, my virtue then shall be to say there is no vice but beggary. Since kings break faith upon commodity, gain be my Lord, for I will worship thee. I in my journal recently, I found something I said where I wrote, I like my lists more than I like my poems. Maybe my lists are poems. So I kind of was embracing that. This is called cringe. Things that make me cringe. I cringe when I read my poems, when my phone makes a sound, a direct message from work, a call from the school loan people. I cringe at inauthentic words, a boss calling work family, a character that says, wait, let me get this straight, or, so what you're saying is, and then recounts the plot thus far. I cringe, like I'm preparing for a raid. This poem isn't helping. Late at night, time to wind down. Let's ponder cringe, a response to fear, a disruption of comfort. I cringe from intense emotions and awkward dinner conversation and clunky dialogue. Others cringe from bombs and mangled remains. Families cower. They cringe from bombs. Bombs are so cringe. Another word defanged by the comfortable. I cringe in my comfort and my bounty, my debt and my mismatched dinnerware. My kids cringe at affection. I cringe I taught them how. When cringe and crave get confused.
And if you can't do nothing, well, that's okay as well. You can sit there all day long and ring dinner bells. We'll all eat together, inspired by the breeze. We'll sing a song of gratitude under